Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Tomorrow, Wednesday the 21st, is the big day, the big showdown. Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, is meeting Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of the Republic of South Africa. As we know, President Ramaphosa is currently in the United States of America. He's meeting Donald Trump. It's going to be one of the biggest tests that Mr. Ramaphosa will face in his political career. It's going to be one of the biggest moments in terms of Africa-America relations, because there's a bigger picture here that's even bigger than South Africa, because China, Russia are also in this conversation on the sidelines right now. But we should not make any mistake about the fact that they will be paying attention closely to everything that happens. Donald Trump has this perception of South Africa. He thinks that terrible things are happening in South Africa, bad things. And as we know, he has created this special, exclusive refugee program for Afrikaner South Africans, while he has cancelled every other refugee program. If you are trying to escape Sudan, where there is a war right now, people are being killed, tough luck. If you are in the DRC, where there's a war right now, tough luck. If you are in the Sahel region, where extremist terrorist groups are operating, tough luck. But if you are a wealthy farmer, if you are somebody who is from the Afrikaner community, you can go to the US Embassy and try to get this visa. 59 people have already gotten this status, this refugee status. So that's where things are. You know, Trump, if you've been listening to Trump over the last few weeks, over the last few months, he has been saying almost the same thing over and over again about South Africa. This is his view.
Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10.
Sir, there were 18 Secret Service agents protecting Hunter Biden in South Africa this weekend. Who's paying for that? Would you plan to revoke the Secret Service for that?
Well, we have done that with many. I would say if there are 18 with Hunter Biden, that will be something I'll look at this afternoon. Okay, sir? I just heard about it for the first time. So you have 18 Secret Service going. Where is he exactly?
In South Africa.
In South Africa. And South Africa, you know, is on a watch list. You know that. Because what they're doing to people is brutal. And I've stopped having money go to South Africa. You know that. Billions of dollars. So he's in South Africa. That's very interesting. All right, I'm going to take a look at that. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want to ask you about South African refugees. Dozens of Afrikaners who claim discrimination in their home country are heading to the United States, where our administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this ties, as you've called it, with all refugee missions, or people from the famine of the war, from countries like Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. But it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they talk about it. That would be the only story they talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people and to escape from that violence and come here. Yeah.
once Donald Trump has a particular view about an issue, you can't change his mind. It's very difficult because he doesn't trust the media. He trusts the people around him. So even if you show him a book, even if you show him a discussion on various platforms that he doesn't watch or follow or believe or trust, then you're not going to be able to persuade him. Trump is clearly somebody with a rigid view on what's happening in South Africa. He's also likely very mindful of the relationships that South Africa has with Russia, with China, and also of the recent visit that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, took to South Africa. So he's aware of all of that. This, I think, it's bigger than the Afrikaner community. It's geopolitical. It has a lot to do with the events that are playing out in the Middle East, the events that are playing out between China, between Russia, between America. It's not just about South Africa. It's not just about the Afrikaner community. That's, I think, is influencing the behind the scenes of all of these conversations. But fundamentally, looking at Mr. Ramaphosa, this is going to be a big test for him. Mr. Ramaphosa has built his reputation as being one of the great negotiators of the transition period in CODESA. So it would be a major blow for him if this meeting goes off the rails, if this meeting worsens South African diplomatic relations, South African trade relations with America. He's somebody who does have people skills and has experience talking to various global leaders, various African leaders. He's been in the political game for a very long time. And he has been in billionaire circles for a very long time. Even before he was a billionaire, he was in conversations with the elites, the Menels, and all of these other families that were really influential in the South African economy, even during the apartheid days. So he does know how to speak to billionaires. He is somebody who is an elite himself, and he understands the dynamics of conversation and persuasion at that level. I wouldn't underestimate him. I wouldn't. I would actually wait and see, because negotiation is what he claims to be, and negotiating is what he claims to be the best at. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I'm going to put a small case study here, which I think is an example of how he can manage to calm tensions and sometimes get a deal. Remember, recently there was a diplomatic confrontation between Rwanda and South Africa. This was in connection with the M23 fighters who took control of East DRC, and they're said to have been backed by Rwanda and its president, Paul Kagame. South African soldiers died. There were tense exchanges between Ramaphosa and Kagame on Twitter, but when they met in person recently, they seemed to have enough rapport to be able to mend the patches and to be able to shake hands and, hold that space in a way that many people would have anticipated perhaps wouldn't happen. So it's partly because Kagame also is trying to be diplomatic and play the game, but also in part because President Ramaphosa is able to pull that kind of, calming negotiation, interaction off in real time in the real world. There comes a time in an athlete's journey when he has to carry his team to victory. That time comes in critical moments, difficult matches where you're trying everything. The other side is equal to the talent of your team. Then you have to show that individual flair of brilliance and show that you can take your team across the line. There comes a time when a soldier has to make an impact in the battle individually. There comes a time as well when a leader needs to do what has to be done to be able to bring the interest of his people to a bettering position. This is such a time for Mr. Ramaphosa. He has to show that he's the man in the arena, that he can get it done. It's going to be a test. It's going to be something that will impact his legacy to a degree, because he is dealing with one of the greatest figures of this modern political ecosystem, somebody who has emerged and disrupted global politics, American politics, and somebody who is a tsunami in and of himself, and that's Donald Trump. So now the tsunami is trying to engage with you, right? And you are the buffalo facing the tsunami. What happens? How do you navigate that? We'll have to see. We'll really have to see. The wild card in all of this is going to be where Elon Musk is placed in these negotiations. If he is in the White House sitting next to Trump, then that's one thing. And if he's not even in the room, that's quite another. There are reports currently that Elon is losing some influence in the Trump ecosystem. There's an election where he was funding in one of the states where they lost that election. Elon was campaigning, it didn't work out. So there are some within the Republican Party who are aware that he's just coming from a big L, and also aware that the public is not really enthusiastic about Elon. And even the Republicans are more enthusiastic about Trump than they are about Elon. And within the inner circles, there's some people who view Elon as just being too present and trying to interfere with things. At some point, even there was a report that he fought with Marco Rubio, and Marco Rubio actually confronted him on a variety of issues, and that Elon was trying to undermine him. They did kind of make peace after that, but as I said, there are rumors that Elon is not necessarily in Trump's best books at this particular moment. The meeting on Wednesday will either confirm or erase those rumors. We'll know. Elon Musk has been the biggest Trump donor, and as we know, he's the owner of Twitter, and he's the world's richest man, and he has been using his social media platform in recent days to amplify narratives that unfairly depict the nature of South Africa today in 25, the nature of redress policies in South Africa. Not only has he been doing that, he's been tampering with Grok. At some point, Grok was answering all questions talking about South Africa. Even if you ask Grok, what's the weather? Grok would say, but did you know that in South Africa, farmers ABC? People are like, I just asked about the weather. And XAI had to issue a statement explaining that somebody had tampered with Grok behind the scenes and they'd gone on the back end and tried to force Grok to be making these types of answers. So Elon is actually very vested in this particular thing. Not only has he been doing that, he was instrumental in the closure of USAID and in the loss of funding for PEPFAR, which was the president's emergency plan for AIDS relief for Africa and other parts of the world where AIDS was a big deal. So these are the dynamics right now. But looking at Elon's behavior, I think there's something erratic to the way he's moving. It's almost like he's trying to do a Hail Mary pass, so to speak. Even when I was looking at the right-wing media voices, I think the right-wing media voices are a bit nervous because they know Trump can change his mind quickly if he has a good relationship with someone or a good interaction with someone. Mr. Ramaphosa is a multimillionaire. Trump is a billionaire. They share that wealthy man status, and Trump can take a liking to someone in person over the golf game or whatever interactions they're having, right? I noticed that those in the Ben Shapiro circle in these last few days, they've been active, very active. Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, they've all been making content about this topic. In addition, the editor of Breitbart, Joel Pollack, has been publishing stories on his platform, appearing on Fox News, speaking about this issue. So this could be a last-minute attempt to try to reach Mr. Trump, to influence his perceptions and to influence the negotiations and to block any positive deal. It's a high-risk strategy because, number one, Donald Trump doesn't like to be manipulated and to seem as if he's not making the final decision. Number two, also, he wants to make a deal. And number three, he's aware of the dynamics between China and Russia, and he wants to be seen at some level as being the one who was able to basically take Africa out of China's hands because he's aware of also the mineral value. Trump is aware of these things. He's a very pragmatic, transactional person who's always looking at various scoreboards. How much are we paying? How much are we getting? Etc. So these attempts by Ben Shapiro and all of these guys may fail. I want to do some, rebuttal videos of what they've been talking about, but I don't really have as much time to do so because it's a busy week, but I will get round to it. So what has been happening on the ground in the US thus far? Ramaphosa will be joined and has been joined by Ronald Lamola, Pakistan, who is Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. Lamola, as you know, is International Relations. Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, she's Minister in the Presidency. Then he's also joined by DA leader John Steenhuisen, who's Minister of Agriculture. Seems to me that it was important for Mr. Ramaphosa to take John Steenhuisen with him to the USA to have someone close by, a white South African who can challenge the narratives of AfriForum, of Ben Shapiro, of Ernest Roots, and all of these people who've been spreading this narrative. Someone who's actually also interested in keeping the GNU together, because there's a bigger picture here, even on the South African landscape. If things happen that radicalize South Africa, that doesn't help the Democratic Alliance. It doesn't help the ANC, right? So John has got multiple interests here. Even as the Minister of Agriculture, he's also trying to protect the interests of Afrikaner farmers, because right now, as we know, 77% of the land is owned by 7% of the population, and 70% of commercial farmland is owned by the Afrikaners. So as things stand right now, they are the ones exporting to America, and they stand to be negatively affected by the positioning that Trump has taken, which is why at some point AfriForum was trying to say, well, don't do what you're doing right now, rather put sanctions on ANC leaders. But Trump goes all in. This is part of his personality. And now that all in is leading to adverse consequences, which is why you've seen the DA pulling away from rhetorics about farm murders and all of that. And John is somebody who needs to reflect and introspect and be held accountable at a different moment, because he was part of this narrative formation. He was part of the people speaking about this discrimination, which is not true and does not exist on the ground. There's a big difference between redress and discrimination. So when you have a situation like what is happening in South Africa, where you have had colonization, you've had apartheid, and you've had deprivation of benefits, privileges, property of one particular people on the basis of their race. If you're trying to remedy that through policy, which is the role of the government, you're not oppressing anybody by saying, let's include more people in your offices. Let's diversify those offices, because the composition of those offices is not something that happened naturally through meritocratic free competition. It happened as a result of one entity passing the Bantu Education Act, excluding others from work opportunities, excluding others by law from being in certain spaces and places. So that's something that he's participated in, and he needs to reflect on at a different stage. But he's there right now to almost go 180 and actually argue against some of the things that he was standing for long ago. But I want to do at some time, if I have time, I want to really look at this thing again of the 142 race laws against certain people. This perception of equity laws, of affirmative action laws, is misleading at best and malicious at worst. So John Steenhuisen has said that he wants to secure trade benefits for South African farmers. And right now, South African agricultural products are enjoying duty-free access to the US market under AGOA, right? But that is at risk right now. Pakistan has announced that they've already met with the US trade representative as part of the preparations before the meeting, trying to get a deal done or discuss deals aligning trade and investment priorities, because the US has many businesses in South Africa operating, over 600. No one has a full picture of how this will play out at this point. Nobody knows. It's going to depend on how Trump and Ramaphosa relate. High-level officials have told various media houses that they expect the discussions to be robust and that they're expecting Elon to be there, but nobody knows. We'll see. They've been saying that the Ramaphosa plan, his strategy, is as follows: that he's going to discuss business opportunities for Elon Musk's companies when he's with Trump, and try maybe to make a deal around, Starlink or Tesla. And because, as you know, Elon wants Starlink to operate in South Africa. So according to his spokesperson, that was one of the things that he was saying could be discussed and could be on the table. But you never know what Trump is going to ask for. And that's going to be a dynamic on the ground. The stakes are high in this meeting for South Africa, for Africa. And it should not be lost on all of us, as I've been saying, that Russia and China are strong in Africa. China is getting copper in Zambia. China has the biggest mines for cobalt in the DRC, right? You've got characters such as Ibrahim Traore and others embracing the Russian military over the French. America understands this discourse, the role of Africa in the geopolitical battle for power and influence. They understand all of these dynamics. Trump doesn't want to be the guy who loses out to China. That's one of his things that he does not want. So the stakes are high for South Africa because of AGOA, because of the loss of this funding, because even other tools that the Americans have not used, they've not imposed sanctions, they've not kicked out South Africa from the global financial system. There's a bunch of things that could be done. And those risks still lie ahead. And if those things are done, it would negatively affect African farmers, South African farmers, most of whom in the commercial farming space are Afrikaners, as I've said. So there's a lot of stake here, right? And this is all happening in the same week as Africa Day, the day when the Organization of African Unity was founded. So there are big questions we'll have to consider about this major meeting, about Africa and our relationships. I'm going to be uploading a reaction and a dissection as soon as the meeting between Donald Trump and Ramaphosa is concluded. So be on the lookout for that, because then we'll have something tangible. We'll know how it went and what it means for the continent going forward. But it's a busy week because the budget speech is coming tomorrow. It's Africa Day on the 25th. Many people are expecting a conservative budget with austerity as the fiscal strategy. I'll be looking at that as soon as the speech is delivered. But it's definitely looking like it's going to be busy. There's a lot of chaos and commotion. And Mr. Ramaphosa is going to be really tested. This is one of those moments where you have to rise to the occasion or you fall to infamy. What do you think is going to happen? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Meet you there.